What's up, LoreHounds? It's Koopa here, inside Trion Worlds booth. I'm excited to be getting the first hands-on for Defiance for us. I'm here with Beliaeff, Senior VP of Development for Trion Worlds. So it's a combo game/TV show.
Absolutely. What we're trying to do with Defiance is something that's never been done before in entertainment. We're trying to break the traditional games and Hollywood model and create something new. We've worked with Syfy from the first day to create an IP that's big enough to have a television show that doesn't have to make any compromise for a video game, and a video game that doesn't have to make a compromise for a television show. Backstory of the universe, there's this alien confederation, and they have to flee their universe because there's this big cataclysm happening. They get on ARC ships and head out towards Earth, but this was not a utopian society. They did not all like one another. They bring all their politics with them. You know, there's no perfect society. They end up on Earth, and unfortunately, we're here. So a negotiation starts happening between us and them, and unfortunately, there's this terrorist act, and all the ships blow up. This starts two things that really change the world. One, a big war between the 7 alien races and the humans, and it's not 7 on 1, it switches sides all the time, it's dynamic, all that. It also triggers all the terramorphing equipment that the aliens had in their ARC ships to colonize. This led to a big sort of period of war and terramorphing, and this lasts about 50 years, and now the game, which is set in San Francisco, and the show, which is set in St. Louis, begin 50 years after all this has happened. The war is over, the terramorphing has cooled down, and society is rebuilding, right? It's a hopeful story. It's how do we rebuild? How does everyone get along? And that's the basic backstory for Defiance.
So I think that the first thing people would want to know is how is the synergy going to play out through not only content updates, but how are we going to see parts of the TV show in the game, and also get parts of the video game in the TV show?
Yeah, and for us, a lot of what we want to do is make sure that the show by itself is just a quality piece of entertainment, and you never need to play the game to have a great time. And with the game, it's just a kick-ass third-person shooter MMO on the PC, on the PlayStation 3, on the Xbox 360 that you can also have a great time on. We want to do, you know, and they're clearly a connected universe, right? The lawmen in the TV show and in the game wear the same uniforms. We've got the same guns. We've got the same cars. We have the same music, right? So you can tell that they're both parts of this larger universe. Then we try and do what no one else can do. And I think one of the really neat things is there are these 2 characters in the TV show. The main 2 characters are this gentleman named Nolan and his adopted alien daughter, Arissa. They actually start out in the video game before you ever see them in the TV show. The player then gets to do a series of missions with them, and you're helping them liberate this power gem from Volge, which is another alien race. But Nolan and Arissa are a little bit of rogues themselves, and so they end up running away with Jewel from you. So the last that the players see of Nolan and Arissa is they're hightailing it out of San Francisco as fast as they can in their car with the stolen merchandise. Fast forward to the show. You see Nolan and Arissa in the same car, but now as live actors with the same stolen merchandise coming into St. Louis. So if all you've done is seen the pilot, you know that these guys are on the run, and you know maybe they're a little nefarious and all this stuff, and you get it like, hey, I'm in for this, you know, fast action, frenetic pace show, and it's going to be a thrill ride. This is awesome. If you've got the game, you've got this depth of backstory, and so
you're just pissed off.
No, you want to see what happens to them because you want to track them down, right? And that does happen. But really, what we're trying to do is there's 2 different ways into this, you know, world of Defiance, right? But it's one world. Together, they're better.
That's really interesting to me because the way I see it is your audience is going to react almost in 2 different ways. If you come from the game and watch the TV show, you might have a different reaction, especially to those characters in the beginning, than someone who just watched the pilot and is just like, oh, cool, you know, this guy's just kind of badass. Whereas I just played the video game, and I'm really pissed because he just ruined, like, you know, 5 hours of questing for me.
But I think that's part of the nature, and that's part of the uniqueness that we're doing that you really can't have, is that you really get to see characters and events and storylines cross mediums in a way that's never been done before.
So just to cross into a little out of the lore towards the gameplay side of things, we as characters, how do we fit into the universe? What are we doing?
Sure. So when the ARC ships were blown up, it created basically a low atmosphere asteroid field. And so these chunks of spaceship fall down at sporadic times. So
Slightly dangerous.
yeah, it's not a good world. Flying, it doesn't happen anymore. It doesn't work. So the player takes on the role of an ARC hunter. And again, in San Francisco. And in San Francisco, there's also sort of a second gold rush going on. So what the terraforming's done is it's changed all the minerals and resource that we're familiar with. So there's no gold anymore. There's no oil anymore. But there is this new resource called goulanite. And so San Francisco has tremendously rich deposits of goulanite. And so that's one of the things you're chasing. That's really sort of creating this sort of frontier gold rush, like kind of happened before in San Francisco. So, but the player's the ARC hunter, and so when these pieces of the spaceship fall, there could be weaponry in them, there could be technology in them, there could be nasty aliens in them, right? And so you sort of go when these things happen, and it's also sort of our way of creating a social event, because you see this giant piece of ship falling from the sky.
So it's like a dynamic event. Everyone rushes to it to see what's going on.
Huge social event, and then you're like, hey, I want to go get this stuff, let's work together. And you're like, I'm taking you down. Right? You can choose to play nice or not. So as this role of an ARC hunter, that's really how you fit in the universe. You're trying to make your own fortune.
That's pretty cool. Are you guys looking to use this kind of to breadcrumb our way over to St. Louis? Is that kind of where we're going with this? Are you going to lead us there in the story?
Part of what we did in choosing San Francisco and St. Louis is we wanted them to be close enough together so that if you heard of something in one, you'd hear it in the other, but the two realities wouldn't stomp upon one another. Again, we don't want to make any compromises in the game for the television show, and they don't want to make any compromises, the other way. And so close enough that we can have our own, connected stories, far enough away that we don't stomp upon one another.
And we do know there's PvP in the game. That's been announced. Up to 32 players can be in it, right, for the largest?
For the instance maps, for the Shadow War, which is the PvP for our open seamless world set in San Francisco Bay Area, it's a bigger number. We don't know how big it is yet because we haven't been able to mass load it.
So sticking with the lore, why are we fighting? Why are we combating if it's a factionless game?
There are factions. They're not permanent factions. You can, choose to join them or not. Again, you're a soldier of fortune. You can choose to fight for nobility and a just cause or for yourself. So you do have the ability. So there are factions that you can sort of change, like hats or shirts or whatnot. But why you fight is you're hired as a mercenary, and it's another way to get more and more personal glory. Law is just being established here, right? The war is over, the terraforming is over, civilization's just beginning to creep in, right? So laws are more like guidelines.
This is a little weird for me. I actually have to ask for 3 release dates. So beta, release of the game, and then release of the show.
Sure. Beta, we have not announced yet, but we do have our alpha is stood up and active right now. The release of the game and show are both April 2013.
Fantastic. Can't wait. We're actually going to dive in, check out some of the PvP, so stick with us. We'll get you in another video for that. So thanks so much for the intro on the lore.
All right, thanks so much. Pleasure having you.